Well, good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 17th of March and Act 18, the ultimatum. Yes, the Yellow Vest protests are continuing on, and that is going to be the topic this evening. Well, a very warm welcome to all of you who are returning to my channel, and a great big shout out to any first-time viewers here tonight. And please, if you enjoy what you see, like, comment, subscribe below, click that big red button. It really does help when you do, and it's great to have you part of the conversation. So here we are, week 18. This is absolutely unbelievable. 4.5 months. There were protests that took place all over France, in Paris, in Toulouse, in Lyon, Marseille, Bordeaux, Nice, and just about every major city in France. Now, the ones in Paris, certainly, I don't know about the rest of the towns and cities, but were taking place alongside several other protests taking place that day. There was a women's march, there was a anti-police violence march, there was an environmental march, so there was lots going on. And now the numbers that were there, the ministry is quoting 28,000. However, the Yellow Vest organisers, which is a kind of a loose group, I believe, they dispute all of those figures. Now, unfortunately, it was marred by violence. They estimated about 1,500 really hardcore activists for left and right-wing groups, and they set fire to banks, smashed windows, set fire to cars, built barricades, and generally made a mess of the whole thing. And you'll see by some of the pictures that they found just how bad it is on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. Now, it's been actually pretty hard to find out the details of the ultimatum, but Eric Droulet did say that this would be the last protest he'd be attending. He says, we've tried protests, they haven't listened, they haven't worked. And so they are talking now about decisive action around ports, major access points, to try and block economic traffic. And I'm assuming that this will be random, so that there would be it'd be very hard to stop. It'd be like a lightning strike type of deal, you know, where they get in the way of traffic, block access. And of course, with just-in-time servicing these days, this is going to be quite significant. And there may also be a resurrection of a tactic which I thought was absolutely brilliant, which was to withdraw your money from the bank and work. Basically, you know, don't get these direct deposits, this kind of stuff, direct debits. Go back to check, write out a check, do it in the mail, but have control over your own money. You get a paycheck, go into your bank, you cash it out immediately, and you have that cash in hand, and you put that money in the bank only when you need a check to go through. It's going to be a bit of a pain in the butt, there's no doubt about it, but I think the money clarity in that, and it did work. But today, you know, there are irresistible weapons that the police use, these flashballs, the water cannons, and of course there are directed energy weapons which make you feel like you're actually burning. Sound cannons, this kind of stuff. It's a whole different era. So any kind of effective protest has to be that kind of thing, where, you know, you control your own individual protests. And, you know, I was reading a little while back, it was in Michigan, and there was a group called the Unorganized Militia. Now, this has happened right after they changed the law about more than two people being a conspiracy to more than one person being a conspiracy. So even two people talking together about something could be considered a conspiracy. And so what they decided to do in Michigan was form not the disorganized militia, but the unorganized militia, where every single person was an independent player, and the contacts they had between people just like regular emails, and didn't give any indication of any kind of a group being formed. And I think this is the kind of tactic that might work quite well in France. And so what was Macron doing whilst all of this was going on, whilst his own population were pouring out their blood, sweat and tears, quite literally in some cases, because of the hardships being wrought on them by high cost of living and low-paying jobs? Oh, he was off skiing. How nice. and we'll show you a couple of photographs of him really enjoying his skiing trip, not giving a tinker's cuss for the plight of his people. And it's almost appropriate in a way that he should be skiing and ignoring the whole process, ignoring the ultimatum and the demands of his people. Now, of course, this particular protest coincided with the end of the town hall debates that Macron had put into place to try and let some steam off, and but all of the things that really needed to be talked about were not addressed. The jobs, the poor pay, an immigration policy, the way the government operates, and I mean by that implementing direct democracy, Swiss style, where there is a much greater inclusion of the public voice, because the great majority of public, up to 80% of the population, are feeling that the government is ignoring their plight in this world. We have the same results here in Canada, and you can see, the arrogance of the leaders. No wonder people feel betrayed and insulted. Now we've got the same thing going on here. Our Prime Minister is embroiled in a corruption scandal with SNC-Lavalin, and what is he doing? Oh, he's down in Florida. He's vacationing down in Florida, far, far, far away from all of the hubbub and turmoil of a corruption inquiry, which involves the Prime Minister's office directly and most of the cabinet and several of his staff members. Skiing, holidaying down in Florida, very nice. I think this really does give you some kind of idea of the self-serving attitude which is now flowing through our government like an electric current. This sense of entitlement, whilst they know there is a plight going on, they have all these people have access to the most unbelievable logistics information about their country. The analysis that is done on Stats Canada information is unbelievable. The documentation that they are collecting and collating